Hello again, and this will be another retrospective video, this time focusing in on Stone Cold Steve Austin in 2001. I expect there to be 4 or 5 matches talked about in this video. For the sake of time, I tried to only watch the highlights, and just from those highlights, I really don't have a problem with the idea that Steve Austin was the best there was in wrestling in that year, just in terms of performance. And, watching it, it has to be said, this has to be noted, he was great at playing a heel. He was absolutely brilliant at it. So it is strange to me that it gets talked about as such a bad decision. I guess the problem was that fans were left without a top babyface to cheer on against him. I mean, they were feuding Austin with Angle, whereas The Rock, who was the obvious top babyface in the absence of Austin, was feuding with Jericho. So The Rock was the top babyface, and Austin versus Rock had already been done that year already, so you really did have the lack of top babyface to balance out Austin's heel act. I guess that was the problem, because the problem certainly wasn't Austin's heel demeanor, at least not in the ring, from what I saw, and as we will see as we go along with this. So the first match I want to talk about is Austin versus Triple H from No Way Out 2001. It's one of those matches, in my 8-year-old mind, it was an epic display of violence, and it's one of those matches that you remember, even if you don't watch it a second time. And I hadn't watched this a second time since it first happened. I've been reading, though, through some of thoughts from people whose opinions that I find interesting, and the match isn't that very well thought of, and after watching it, I can see why. I actually agree with the bad rep. I will say this, though, I think that calling this match bad is a bit harsh, but I do understand it, because this was a match that tried so hard to be this great epic masterpiece, and it fell very well short of that. And when that happens in wrestling, you always feel more annoyed by that than a match that is good and doesn't feel like it's trying to be anything more. That's how I felt about Angle versus Benoit from the Rumble, if you remember. Whereas this match, I mean, the first fall is great. The first fall is a great sprint. It's well paced. It's back and forth for the right amount of time. They fight over limbs to make all the comebacks believable and exciting. Austin was vicious in control, and a lot of stunner counters from Triple H were better than usual, leading to this great finish where the final stunner feels desperate, spontaneous, and wow, he just hit that. Yeah, this first fall is great. Take it by itself, and you have something better than what you get when you add on the next 2 falls. Second fall, I might as well say this now, and I love when Sanders' brother brought this up in their response to me. I don't care for crowd brawling 99% of the time. I'm sure somewhere down the line I'll find a good example of it. From memory, the Joshi talent managed to make it work sometimes in their, when they were trying to have this big brawl of a match, but right now I am prepared to say that I almost completely hate it, because it just never feels competitive. You're dragging an opponent around, and even if you've worked him over beforehand, he can still resist by just doing nothing, instead of allowing himself to be steered around. It's deflating, and at best it's a lazy excuse to set up a crazy spot, and sometimes it doesn't even do that. Like, it didn't do anything for this match, for example. Notice that Triple H versus Shawn Michaels from Summerslam, which I gave a lot of praise to, had no crowd brawling. And also remember that I, in a short video, said that Triple H versus Punk from this year was a bad match even before the booking, and a big reason for that was that they had a fair bit of crowd brawling going on, or just brawling around the arena. It's just that kind of thing is just the hardest stuff to get into. If anyone has a good example of this in wrestling, please do make me aware of it. In this match, Triple H versus Steve Austin, after they were done with that, they got back in the ring, and there are some good moments from that point on in this second fall. I mean, example, the spot where Triple H drove Austin into the chair. Austin tried to fight back, and he ended up being driven into the chair again. It felt like, a very desperate comeback that just failed, and he was just right back to where he was before. Good to get some babyface sympathy for those few seconds, but a lot of it is just plodding along back and forth. Not necessarily bad, just not exciting or interesting. And there are, again, examples of those moments where wrestler A goes to get a weapon, and that's the cue for wrestler B to fight back, which, nope, Not going to like that lazy approach. I don't think the second fall is bad. I think there's just nothing that stands out in it for the duration. And what really kills this match is the third fall, because it's the same meaningless back and forth without the few good moments of the previous fall. You know, think about the fact that Austin spent a few minutes grinding the barbed wire against Triple H's face, and then it's a DDT from Triple H, and right away it's even again. Austin beats on Triple H until he collapses, and then a few seconds later he's scaling the cage with speed. You know, just a failure to put anything over as important in the second or third falls. Let me say this though, I do think, to be fair, I really feel like these two were backed into a corner when it came to putting this match together. I mean, when you do hardcore wrestling for such a length amount of time like these guys did here, by the time you get to the third fall, you really don't have a lot of options. I mean, if you're not going to do the back and forth like these guys did, you're trying to go for meaningful comebacks, which gets harder and harder to make believable the longer it goes. I really don't think anyone could have pulled this off. So it's not a knock on these guys as workers. I just think that they were asking too much of themselves in terms of putting together this match. You know, from a promotion perspective, you pile on the gimmickry to draw people in, and it works because of the surrounding storyline feud. But in terms of putting together this match, these guys were trying to do something that might not be impossible, but it's really, really difficult. So there's that. In the end, I give this 3 1/4. I really like the first fall, and I'll watch that again. But the second fall, you might be able to say is above average at best. But the third fall really sucked. And apart from the finish, though, which was very, very smart looking, obviously. So no denying that. That's that match. Not really feeling that one. So let's move on to the WrestleMania 17 match against The Rock. This match depends a lot on how much better it gets as it goes on. You know, it's good when Austin's in control because he's more aggressive, he's more intense. And I will say this, this applies to a few matches that I watched, not just this one. At this time, after a near fall, he had a tendency to complain to the referee in a way that might, be the cue for a lazy comeback from his opponent. Doesn't tend to happen in these matches, surprisingly. You know, in this match, for example, when that happens, Austin's going to complain to Hebner, The Rock lunges out for this desperate clothesline, and you believed in it, and it was a good moment, so fair play to that. And even though I don't think The Rock made the biggest impression here, I did really like the setup to the sharpshooter. He used it as a counter to the stunner, which was nice, and it kind of made up for the fact that The Rock's sharpshooter isn't used as a match ender, so you're kind of just waiting for it to end whenever he locks it in. And the counter to the $1 Million Dream, absolutely wonderful moment right there. You know, great near fall. And here's the main thing this match does well. McMahon comes out, and you think you know what's going to happen. You know, you think you know that it's just, as with many WWE matches, it's just one bit of interference and then it's over, because that's the prevailing trend. But that's not what happens here. I thought it was over when McMahon hit The Rock. The rock bottom that came after that, I reacted hugely for. I thought it was over when Stone Cold hit the stunner after that. They got me into everything because I thought I knew how it was going to end. I thought it would be predictable once Vince McMahon came out. And they succeeded with flying colours in making me believe in that, Rock is never going to give up idea. Much more effort than in a lot of other epics with a million near falls that people might defend for a similar reason. So with that, I do give this one 4 stars. It does drag at points, but it did get progressively better as it went on, and the finish is really something, very, very effective. Kind of clinches it in terms of giving this a great rating. So there we go on that. Next up we have Steve Austin versus Chris Benoit for the WWF Championship on the 28th of May, Monday Night Raw. And if you're like me, and you value matches that don't waste any of your time, then you will understand why I'm rating this above the 2 matches that I just talked about. This is a sprint. Think about Christian versus Orton from SmackDown this year. It's more aggressive than that, and it has the added element of Benoit's bruised ribs. Benoit's early crossface tease is beautiful. Then the setup for the successful submission is even better than that. They pack all that in such a tight space of time, and it's just so effective, Benoit takes a terrifying bump on the table, and the superplex counter in this match is fantastic, because Superplexes, obviously, they often feel mandatory in the standard big WWE match. So when it gets countered like that, it just gets a huge reaction. The stuff with the title belt is really well executed. Even Earl Hebner had a good moment in this match. So if this match had a finish, they replicate the Montreal Screwjob finish in this match. But if it had a proper finish, I would be able to say that it's top 20 WWE matches for the decade material, and I'm still giving it 4.25 because it just accomplishes so much in without wasting any of your time. Do not let the fact that this is a TV match deceive you. I mean, it's really high quality stuff. Go and watch it because it's really just so much fun in such a tight space of time. Did I watch Austin and Triple H versus Benoit and Jericho from Raw? Yes, I did. And I think it's good. I think it's a fun sprint. I gave it 3.75, but I'm not really going to talk about it here because I think that it's a Benoit match. I think Benoit was the best guy in that match by a fair distance, so it's not really an Austin match to me. This next one, though, I'd rather skip on to it because it is absolutely an Austin match, and it's something special as well. That is Steve Austin versus Kurt Angle from SummerSlam 2001. Yeah, this is special, mostly because of Steve Austin. I can give Angle credit for a few things in here, but it's an Austin match, for sure. I mean, take the early ankle lock, for example. Could have been finisher abuse if Austin wasn't determined to work such a smart match here. And he sells it enough to make it work within the struggle for control that they were doing there. Same thing with the early German suplexes. Worthwhile because Austin was resisting instead of just letting Angle get his spot in because he had to get his spot in. No, that's not what happened here. And then Austin targets the head and things get brutal. Ramming Angle's head into the turnbuckle, the ring post I mean, while getting so much heat from the referee and just, referee complaining, he's still doing it. Just amazing stuff. And Angle did well to at least tease a comeback a little bit when he shoved Austin into the crowd. I'm not sure how I feel about the ankle lock on the barricade. Didn't get a huge reaction from me like a finisher is supposed to, but it did lead to good things. Angle actually steered Austin back into the ring, smart move. And then it was all about Austin was trying to strike his way back into control, but Angle had a big move in response to all of that. This part of the match isn't as amazing as when Austin was in charge, but it got back to that amazing point once the $1 Million Dream was locked in. And again, the reversal to that move just looks so cool. I mean, there's not much variance in it, but it always gets me going, never fails. And then Angle has possibly, it has his best moment in the match by far, and it's possibly the best Olympic slam he's ever done. He had just kicked out of a stunner, Austin was going for it again, and Angle managed to reverse it into an Olympic slam. I wouldn't call it overkill, I wouldn't call it illogical bullshit, I would just call it total desperation, and it got a huge reaction from me. Absolutely wonderful. And then this finish. Okay, this finish was heading down a perfect path, but in terms of match layout and quality, the DQ ending didn't work, and let me explain why. This is that point you reach where what you did makes sense for the storyline and not the match. That's what this ending was. I'm sure Austin was, in storyline terms at this time, not necessarily cowardly, but keeping the title was more important than keeping his honor, and I understand that. And I know that I'm taking his character out of context by what I'm about to say, but this is honestly how I feel. As far as the heel that he was playing within this match, no cowardly, just vicious and aggressive. And him knocking out all those referees was great stuff because after Angle had survived so much, you could sense Austin's growing insanity. So him knocking out all those referees was an appropriate reaction. But the DQ ending leaves no conclusion to that, and it leads to the next show. And that leaves this match feeling incomplete. Incomplete is the best word I can use for this match. Given an appropriate finish, and I'm saying it's 5 stars. That's how good this was. My suggestion would be have Nick Patrick come out like he did, have him do the fake injury act that he had been doing at that time, and then have Angle knock him out, and then Austin just goes insane on Angle. Instead of going insane on the referees, he's going insane on Angle in the same way. I know you have to protect Angle for what's going to happen at the next show, but I think there's a way to do it properly. I think there's a way you can do it while still protecting Angle. But no matter what, I do need a finish to be able to say this match feels complete. Regardless, without a doubt, 4 3/4 stars. This is a serious candidate for best WWE match ever. I'd say it'll never fall out of my top 5. It's just that good. And it'll hold up a lot better than a lot of others in my estimation. That's how good this match is. So that is the highlights of Austin in 2001. Definitely some extremely worthwhile material. And I guess Shawn Michaels versus Undertaker matches are next. That's what I said. Yeah, that's what I said. So I would be looking for those within the next week, and you will see that video within the next week. So with that, sayonara, hito bito.